and it inspires me every day. It makes me continue to work really hard and gives me a lot of hope to see people that are just jumping in right now with both feet and working hard. That's what it's going to take to turn this thing around. And I will tell you right out the gate, and we'll have, we'll talk about some, I'll share with you some of my background and share with you what my vision is for the state and how I imagine we can make this effort successful. But I'll just preface my remarks and tell you this has very little to do with Ed Humphreys. I represent, I think, a small part of a movement. The question of this election, the question of every problem that we're facing right now, which they're numerous, we'll talk about a lot of them, is going to be, what are we going to do? What are the everyday Idahoans in the state going to do to turn it around? Because I'll tell you right now, I know you don't want to hear it, it's not going to be the politicians. It's not going to be the politicians to fix it. It has to be us. And we're going to have to restore that sense of civic duty in our communities to get it done. And when we do, we will see the positive results that we're looking for. And that's been my experience since I started. I've only been involved in politics for a few years, less than 3 years. And I got involved because I'm a financial planner, and it's actually funny to run into it because I got involved in politics because I had a couple of clients who actually happened, of all the events to be at across the state, they're actually in the room tonight, Dave and Jackie Shurtleff, and they said, hey, you're a firebrand conservative, and you ought to go to a Republican Party meeting and see what that's like. And I realize they'll only ever be clients and never friends, because friends don't bring friends into politics, okay? That's a fact. Who would have thought, right, that it would have led on this whole journey? I know they did, and I sure never did. But when I showed up to my first Republican Party meeting, I have to tell you, I was horrified. I thought, these are the frontline soldiers against socialism in our country today. It kept me up, I have to tell you. And I'll share with you a little bit about my story and why I'm so sensitive to that. But I felt compelled to get involved, and I'll share with you a little what ended up coming from that first meeting and what my involvement in the party led to and how it led to this today. But just so you understand why I'm so sensitive to this cause against socialism, right? Conservative values, American values, family values, why it's so important to me. My family lived under and fled from communism in Eastern Europe. My mother, my brother, my aunt, they came here from the former Yugoslavia. My father was born here, but his mother fled from Nazi Germany and came to this country. And so I was surrounded by immigrants as a little boy growing up, and I heard the nightmarish stories that they shared. Just so my brother's father was murdered. There's no investigation, there's no accountability in that part of the world, right? I have members of my family that lost teeth from malnourishment. For my family in Germany, I've had members of my family that had their homes subdivided to have homeless people moved into it because, I always say we never give the communists enough credit. I hope you know there are no homeless people in communist countries. They did solve that problem. It's pretty easy when they can just come and subdivide your home and move bums into it, though, right? And that's what they do, just so you know. That is exactly how this works. And my family, they came here. My mother, she cleaned hotel rooms. She cleaned office buildings. My father, he laid tile. I grew up going to work with them. And we started out, my life story in particular, started out in very meager circumstances. So to give you an example, when I was 4 years old, there were 6 of us, this was in Arizona, there were 6 of us that lived in an 18-foot travel trailer, and for a shower we had a tarp and a garden hose. And so I never am able to say that I came from nothing, because we did have a tarp and a garden hose, okay? And if nothing else, it makes for a good shower. I don't know that it would work in any other state except, Arizona. But we made do. And I got to watch my family live the American dream. I got to watch them elevate their station in life, their standard of living. And what did they do? Well, they followed the rules and they worked hard. Son of a gun. And everything solves itself when you do that. That's the American dream. And so I know it's often a term that's thrown around. It's become, sadly, in many ways, a cheap political talking point. But we can't allow it to just be a buzzword. It's the very soul, it's the identity of this country and this whole experiment. That is absolutely under attack right now. And so I'm going to start off with something that will undoubtedly alarm some of you, but we'll talk through it, and I think you'll come to see my point of view. What we're facing right now in America is a communist incursion. I hope you understand this. And when I say that, a lot of people are like, whoa, Ed, you're not allowed to say those kind of things. Like, that makes you sound like you're some sort of conspiracy theorist, or, you're wearing a tinfoil hat. No, let's talk about the facts. The truth ought to have its day. And that is absolutely the truth. What is happening right now is we are victims, you could say, of our own prosperity. And we are now, with our own tax dollars, funding our destruction. And there are political operatives that have inserted themselves into every layer of our state government, and they funnel money to support private nonprofit groups that employ hordes of anti-American activists. And the worse things get, the more money those organizations get. You have to understand the incentive structure. And this is why it's so debilitating, and why things are getting crazier by the day. Look at Seattle, right? I'm sure we probably have someone in the room here from Seattle. Seattle was once, a shining city in the West, a model for a future city, right? And what has happened? Now their own local news stations make documentaries called Seattle is Dying and Fight for the Soul of Seattle. These are the local news stations. These aren't some political party or 501c4 super PAC making these videos. We're talking about a local news station in Seattle saying Seattle is dying. And they'll show you, I encourage you to look at it, they'll show you plenty of footage of how insane it's gotten. And let me summarize very quickly why it's gotten so insane. Now literally the drug dealers, they deal drugs right in front of the courthouse there. They can do whatever they want. One of the most dangerous streets in America today is now in Seattle, believe it or not. You'd think, they're competing with Chicago and New York, and can you believe that? It's now in Seattle. Essentially, the city of Seattle was turning over about $30 million a year to a private nonprofit that was to address homeless and aiding the homeless situation. And that private nonprofit would use a significant part of the tax dollars it received from the city to go and ensure that county prosecutors got elected who would not actually prosecute crime. Interesting, right? You want to talk about, let's have a real conversation about what happened during COVID, because this is also really fantastic. You're not allowed to discuss these things, and we're doing a Facebook Live, but don't worry, here in about 10 seconds, that feed is going to get shut down. Do you guys know that we helped fund the lab that actually engineered the virus? I mean, this, and you know how they did it? It was through a private nonprofit. Isn't that interesting? We pay our tax dollars. They turn it over to private organizations that literally give our country's enemies our money. Think about that. What time in American history did we go fund our enemies? This is absurd. We do it across the world. We do it here right now. In fact, just about, I think, 6 hours ago, we put out a video. The campaign dropped a video. I'm going to encourage all of you to go and watch it. It's not Ed Humphreys making the claims. It's the former Secretary of State. It's Trump's Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo. You want to know what he had to share? You go watch the video. It's a minute and a half. You guys have 90 seconds, I hope. You have 90 seconds. Here's what Mike Pompeo, part of what he shared. He said that the Chinese Communist Party is very active here in America at the local, the state, and the federal level, and they are figuring out who is going to help them carry things out here in the United States according to their dictates, to Beijing's dictates. And it's not on my heart to be nasty. I'm just going to share with you things that these are undeniable, indisputable facts. And I'm not trying to be nasty or personalize things, but at some point the truth ought to have its day. And so you need to understand, Mike Pompeo, in one of his parting addresses as Secretary of State, he went to the National Governors Association. You had most of the governors in this country in the room, and he had a chance to speak with them. And his parting wisdom was that, hey, we're aware that some of you are friendly, he said, with the Chinese Communist Party. And he said, I think it might be word for word, he said, just understand, it's working you and it's working the people around you. Our governor is on that list, folks. Go watch the video. It's not Ed Humphreys. It's not me making the claim. It's Mike Pompeo, the Secretary of State for the United States of America. Go see it for yourself. We don't have time to play games anymore. We don't have time to hope that somebody's going to, fix the problem. It's got to be us, because you're not allowed to say that on the internet. Like, you're not going to hear that. If you don't watch something like that and see the facts for yourself, right? See the report for yourself. See what Mike Pompeo is talking about, and tell other people about it and tell them we have to make a change, nothing's going to happen, because the media in this country doesn't want people to have these conversations. Social media does not want people to have these conversations. There's only one way we can control how we communicate, and you're doing it right now. We're all together having a discussion, and we have to continue to repeat that over and over and over again to make a massive change in the state of Idaho. So please, just I understand some people say, man, I like Ed, but he's intense. I hear that sometimes. Yeah, it takes a level of intensity to walk away from a $40 million book of business to run for governor when you're 31 years old. So yeah, I could be categorized as intense. But also, please understand, this isn't a joke to me, because I will tell you one thing. This is getting to a point where you can pay now with your time and your money to turn things around, to take our country back, or you will pay later with much more than that. This ideology is not going to slow down. It's not suddenly going to reach some comfort area where it says, okay, we're going to let you have the rest of your freedoms. We'll stop here. Okay, the government feels empowered to make personal medical decisions for you now, but we're just going to stop there. We're not going to start making personal decisions for you in every other area of your life. Just your medical decisions. You know this is going to get a lot worse. This election is 110 days out. That's how close we are. 110 days out. And so I will share with you a little bit, like I said, about my background and my vision and the likes, but I want you to remember, you're at a historic turning point right now, the gravest of which you've ever been in your life in this country, right now, tonight, in Nampa, Idaho. If you walk away from this tonight, and after you understand what's going on, I will explain it a little bit more, and you do nothing for your country, you are just as much of a traitor to this nation as the people who betrayed us and got us here. And we have been betrayed. And I know there's a lot of us that, we watch. Look, I love Tucker Carlson, right? I love Hillsdale College. There's a lot of great stuff out there where we can all educate and be informed. But I also want you to understand that the status quo exists because there's a lot of people that benefit from it. And so while we can all rail against the leftists, you also have to understand there is now what I call conservative incorporated. There's a lot of money today in being a conservative. We have been, and do you notice, even in the state of Idaho, supermajority Republican legislature, House and Senate, Republican trifecta, Republicans run everything in the state. We never lead out on anything. The most bold conservative leadership that you have right now in America today is from a swing state. It's from Florida. They're not reliably anything. They're not reliably Democrat, reliably Republican. How many presidential contests have been determined down there? Yet that's where you get the most conservative leadership in America today. When the special session came together just a couple months ago, right, because we all wanted to address, we did not want corporate coercion in our personal medical decisions. That was very widely agreed upon by Republicans. And so we asked our conservative legislators, hey, please protect us from, the corporate coercion, right, and crony corporatism and the like. And they got together, and what did they accomplish? Nothing. Nothing. Isn't that interesting? And so, I know some people who think, well, Ed, gosh, we do have some conservative politicians, and maybe we ought to help them get elected because, they've been in the system and it's their time. Woo, we got to wake up. The career politicians created this. Conservative, moderate, rhino, leftist, they all created it. You have to ask yourself, why is it when you see some bold conservative action, it actually doesn't get anything done? Think about all the political theater and all the stunts that you see, and I want you to actually ask yourself, what did that actually accomplish for me and my family? And you'll find out, nothing. Didn't do anything to help you. It is all just a game because it's election season. It's election season. I am sick of that. I'm sick of the career politicians and the like. And I know because I've seen as I've traveled the state, people are getting involved now that have never attended a political event before. That gives me great hope. Look at what happened in New Jersey. Ed Durr beat the pro tem of the Senate. He was a truck driver, for crying out loud. Beat the pro tem of the Senate in New Jersey. And so if it helps anyone here, just so you know, I do have a Class A CDL, okay? You look at J.D. Vance, the author of the Hillbilly Elegy, right? He's running for U.S. Senate in Ohio right now. This is a movement happening in our country right now. It gives me immense hope, but you also have to understand this is going to be the one opportunity you get for your entire life to be a part of history. It's happening right now, right in front of you. Jump in with both feet. That's what my wife and I decided to do. We're not going to sit around and wait for some professional politician to, suddenly get all bold and conservative during election season. I call them teleprompter titans. It's like the leadership oozes out of these people when the teleprompter kicks on. I'm sick and tired of these people. They're garbage. They've betrayed us. We need something totally different. And that's why my wife and I, we prayed about it. And we had to ask ourselves, so much has been sacrificed so that we could live in this choice land. We have a young family. We got 2 young kids at home. What are we willing to sacrifice? And I think we've answered that a whole lot. And we're going to continue to do that. So I hope you understand this isn't for my ego. This isn't some vanity project that I thought was going to be cute. Every single day that I'm out here, our savings account does this. It goes down every single day. I get smeared endlessly. All the most ugly rumors you can imagine. I'm sure we'll get a chance to talk about them tonight, and we probably should. I'm not from Mars. Oh my gosh, some of the most fantastic. I'm the only one who's actually produced evidence of real cases of corruption happening in the administration here in Idaho, and presented what I did today, Mike Pompeo, and showing where our current governor lies with the Chinese Communist Party. I'll tell you the most pervasive rumor people love to spread, that I'm on the governor's payroll, and I'm just out here to prevent our lieutenant governor, who's supposed to be this conservative champion for our state, from getting elected. That is garbage. She's a 20-year career politician who has never accomplished anything, but we're going to pretend, because it's election season, and she said some bold stuff. We okay, this is the conservative champion for our state. Here's my question: how many times was she governor last year when we were really under the pressure of the pandemic and the shutdowns? How many times was she acting governor last year? What did she do?
She played games.
She did nothing. Nothing. But you want to know what? She announced she was going to run for governor. Oh, and now when she's acting governor, she does something. Isn't that fantastic? How unique, interesting timing. I'm done even holding back on it. We don't have time. We don't have time to, with the niceties and the like. Sometimes you just got to call it how it is. And with 110 days left in the election, we're going to call it how it is from here on out. And so I hope it's not on my heart to offend anyone here. But we can't play the games anymore. And so I'll finish sharing a little bit more about my background, where I came from, how I got introduced to Idaho. But when I say my family lived the American dream, I hope what you understand, I lived on both sides of the tracks in my life. I've lived it too. 13 years ago, I was living in a rundown trailer park in western Colorado. I got an opportunity to be a roughneck on drilling rigs, drilling for oil. And I traveled throughout Rocky Mountain states, and that's how I got introduced to Idaho. And I moved to Idaho Falls in 2013. That's where I met my wife. And I moved here from Colorado. So there's another rumor I just dispelled, right? All these different places I came from. My favorite one, somebody said I moved to Idaho from Ukraine. I've never even been to Ukraine in my life, but okay. Here we are. We'll just dispel them as we go. But my wife and I, both our kids are born here. My wife was raised here. We live in Eagle now, so we're not that far, which I like it when we have events in the Treasure Valley. It's much easier to get to Nampa than it is, Coeur d'Alene. But I lived on both sides of the tracks in more ways than one. You're looking at one of the few people you'll meet who never graduated the 8th grade, later went on to get a master's in finance. And I shared with you, I was a financial planner. That's how I got drug into politics. And I think it's powerful to have a finance guy, because I always say in politics, if you want the truth, then follow the money. And I've done that. That's where I think I really went off the rails, is because I've read thousands of fiscal and budget pages of fiscal and budgetary reports in our state government, and I've seen what the money goes to. So let me tell you quickly, everyone in here pays to help promote the idea that the Declaration of Independence is white supremacist. That's what our universities teach here in Idaho. It's a fact. You can, again, go put out a 21-second video on it. Go watch it. Go see for yourself. Oh, and I just heard I was a freshman at Boise High School interviewed me yesterday, and he shared a recording with me. So he shows me his phone, and what it is every Monday morning, the principal at Boise High School goes over the loudspeaker over the whole school, and he says, we're going to have a moment of silence because Boise High School sits on stolen land. Every Monday, Boise High. It's your tax dollars. And no matter, just so you know, no matter how much evidence that you produce, which I produced quite a bit of it, I was as a private citizen, I introduced the bill to ban critical race theory in the Idaho House Education Committee in Idaho Public Schools. I did it as a private citizen. The reason that I was allowed that or granted that honor is because I was bringing students to the legislature to meet with legislators. I was producing evidence and meeting with stakeholders and convincing them to not donate anymore to the universities and the like. I hope you too will not donate to these universities. I'm sorry, it has nothing to do with education anymore. If it did, I'd say give everything to them, but it's not about that. So I had the opportunity to introduce that bill, and it was watered down and the like, and went through the political process, but it was passed into law, and I did that as a private citizen. I'll share with you a few other things. As a private citizen, teaming up with other everyday Idahoans, how we were able to get a lot of incredible things done, and that's really the spirit of this campaign. But to finish the story about how I got involved in politics in the Republican Party, after I saw the mess at the Republican Party, I just thought we need new leadership. Like this is, gone down the tubes. Me and somebody I knew at the time, we started an organization called Make. I don't know that we get points for creativity, but it worked. It was called Make, because I live in Eagle, right? Make Ada Great Again. And we recruited 105 people, just every day, not 105 people run for these party positions, and 90 of them won. And we were able to turn over leadership in the county party, and that was my first time being involved in something where, we said, hey, let's get a group of people together and see if we can bring some sense and sanity back. And I'm not incredibly pleased with how everything ended up, but hey, you get in, you make improvements where you can, and you keep pushing. I ended up winning a series of elections that put me as a Region 4 chairman. So I sit on the executive board for the state Republican Party, and that's when I really started figuring out why things are so problematic, was when I was able to actually sit down at the table with the constitutional officers of the state and a lot of the people who you could say run the Republican Party in the state of Idaho today. And I just came to see firsthand that the Republican Party is not going to step in and turn this around. Do not hold your breath for a single moment and think the Republican Party is going to show up and turn things around for us here. The Republican Party has, for the most part, actually become the party of socialism light. We're just the lighter, cuter socialists, right? But we pride ourselves that we're not as bad as the full-throated Marxists over there in the Democrat Party. It's all the same bag of tricks, all these collectivist ideologies, whether you want to call it communism or socialism or Marxism. Trust me, it's been the same thing every time and time again. Both Bernie Sanders and Vladimir Lenin, the father of the Soviet Union, you could say, called themselves democratic socialists. It's always the same bag of tricks. Let me explain to you very succinctly how we believe, how we're the party of socialism light. We actually believe in the very core tenets of socialism and communism. One of the core tenets, it's called central planning. The whole idea is that the government believes, and elected officials in government believe, that subject matter experts are more qualified to make decisions than any of us are. And so the government empowers them to make decisions for us. Has anyone in the room heard of a Dr. Fauci? You get it, right? I don't like to give him any credit. I don't consider him an expert myself. I feel like he's been discredited by now. But according to the United States government, Dr. Fauci is a subject matter expert, and he is so arrogant in his own understanding, he feels entitled to make medical decisions for everyone in this room and your families, that you can't make them for yourself. That's not going to stop there, right? There's an army of Dr. Fauci's here in Idaho. We're one of the few states in the whole country that shut churches down but deemed liquor stores as essential during the pandemic. So we could, of course, have a conversation about special interest science, which I would define as it's the best science money can buy. And you're seeing how this science can be bought and paid for. Think about how crazy these academics think we are. These academics, they produce these reports now that they tell you, you guys, our communities would be so much better. The one thing our communities need, we need more recreational drugs, more ways to do those drugs, and clean injection sites. And our communities will be so much better, don't you know? That's what the academics are telling us. These are insane ideas. That's beyond insane. You realize that? Because if that was true, then I imagine people wouldn't move to Idaho. You know where they'd be moving to is, Seattle, Portland, San Francisco, Los Angeles. Oh, they're not, are they? Because those are dumpster fires. Because they celebrate the drug culture and homelessness. And yet, how many academic reports can you find saying, we just need more drugs, more ways to do drugs, and cheaper drugs, and everyone's going to be in better shape? That's the academic thesis today. It's special interest science. There's a lot of money in drugs, and they don't want the Mexican mafia to be getting all the money anymore. These corporations want to cash in on it. It's a lie. It's a giant lie that we've bought into. Too many of us have bought into it. I think there ought to be one state that celebrates American values. There ought to be one state that celebrates family values. That's okay. We don't have to be like California, folks. It's okay if we're different. Let us be different. And if doing drugs is the most important thing in your life, oh my gosh, aren't there great places? There are places with free drugs and clean places to do drugs all over the country now. Look at what happened in my home state of Colorado. And this has bothered me about the Republican Party because I came from a state that was, think about Colorado, really the example that I could give that I think everybody needs to understand very clearly. Colorado was a reliably Republican, Rocky Mountain cowboy culture state, right? Sounds really familiar. Sounds like Idaho. In 4 election cycles, it went from being a Republican trifecta, like how Idaho is now, where Republicans run everything, to a Democrat trifecta. So that's 8 years. Here's the kicker, though. There were over 100,000 more registered Republicans than registered Democrats when they did it. So think about that. The Democrats took over everything. And so one conversation, we could talk about election integrity tonight, and I'll leave that. We're going to get to your questions and answers. But I'll tell you why that is because the Republicans continued to turn tax dollars over to woke agencies, woke private groups and nonprofits, and those groups completely routed them and outmaneuvered them and continued to throw up one initiative after another and win here and win there. And that's a fascinating one, right when they legalized drugs in Colorado, you want to know what happened? Tons of homeless people bust in there. Yeah, if you have friends in law enforcement and the like, talk to your friends in law enforcement. Ask them what happened in Colorado. All the cops in the country know because the law enforcement in Colorado was overwhelmed overnight. They're coming in on Greyhounds. Thousands and thousands of bums. Denver is now what? Well, people aren't moving to Denver. They're moving to Idaho, right? Same thing. The Republicans facilitated that whole thing. We just allowed it to go that way. We funded our own destruction. And the same names that were appearing on campaign finance reports in Colorado are now appearing on campaign finance reports here in Idaho. This is a systematic and a methodical plan that's being carried out. And for the most part, they hope that most of us will just continue to watch the news and scream at the TV and shut up, right? That's what they hope. They just, you'll shut up because we're going to show you we're in charge now. And you've seen that for many years now, but we can turn it around in Idaho if there's anywhere we can turn it around. Our current governor, by the way, won the last Republican primary, which is the election in the state of Idaho. He won it with less than 73,000 votes. Think about that. There's almost 1.9 million people in the state of Idaho. 73,000 people voted for the current administration. I have a lot of great friends and people that, how could they know? I mean, the reality is not a lot of people knew. But things changed really quickly when he got in there. He fooled a lot of people. On one hand, that's a little depressing to think that 73,000 people could pick an administration for a whole state. On the other, there's actually immense opportunity there. That's the question of this election. Can we round up 125,000 patriots who love America and would zealously defend it? Right? That's the definition of a patriot. I have to believe in Idaho, of all places, there's 100,000 people that feel like we do. And I think I'm right because I've traveled the state and I see what's happening with my own eyes. It's incredible to see people getting involved now and see what this team has accomplished. But my involvement politically, I shared a little bit about the critical race theory deal, which deeply bothered me. Election integrity was something that I think was on many people's minds, and I know there's a lot of people I respect and appreciate that feel differently on what happened in the last presidential election. I will tell you there's one basic fact that's undeniable and should concern you regardless of whether or not you think the last election was stolen. Here's a fact. At least 5 states conducted an unlawful election. That is an undeniable, indisputable fact. 5 states conducted an unlawful election. And then I had some confidence in our institutions in this country. I thought, especially when that video came out of Georgia, Most people were horrified. I was ecstatic. I was celebrating when that video came out of Georgia because I thought, oh, thank goodness they caught him. That now this will all start to unravel. Boy, was I wrong. And just so for my friends who are still thinking like everything is above board, if I encourage you to volunteer, be a poll worker, be a poll watcher, be involved in this next election. You tell me if at any point it is even remotely acceptable for you to empty out a room and stay in it with 3 other people and you have access to tens of thousands of ballots unsupervised, and without using any process, you can just pull out boxes and scan ballots for hours, totally unsupervised. That's not even close. That's criminal in probably every county in this whole country. There's nowhere in the United States of America where you can just willy-nilly start pulling ballots out of boxes with no checks and balances. No way to verify the chain of custody for those ballots. But apparently in Georgia, it's just fine. They estimate in that 4 hours, which, by the way, if you remember, they evacuated the room for a water leak. That didn't happen. There was no leak. So they evacuated for a water leak that didn't happen. And then, 4 people got to stay behind and scan ballots for 4 hours. They estimate they scanned 30,000 ballots in that time. Do you know what Joe Biden's margin of victory in Georgia was? 11,000. So at the most basic level, I don't know if there were millions of ballots that were manufactured. Heck, there might not have been. It actually makes no difference to me. We got to ask ourselves, are we a country that celebrates the rule of law, which means we ought to be governed by law, or are we governed by the dictates of man? Because those are 2 complete different legal systems. Idaho's in the same situation now. Did you know? This is also undeniable, indisputable fact. 35% of your property tax bill, over 1/3 of your property tax bill was ruled by the Idaho State Supreme Court, the highest court in the land, was ruled unconstitutional. The supplemental levies from the schools over a decade ago were ruled unconstitutional. They are illegal. You tell me what will happen if you don't pay that 35% of your property tax bill. Yeah, see what happens if you say, oh, well, that's actually an illegal supplemental levy, I'm not going to pay it. They'll take your house from you. We don't celebrate the rule of law anymore. This is the dictates of man. We have elected officials that believe that they live above the law. So, and I have a property tax plan, we'll talk about it in a little bit, but I'll tell you right there, even if I didn't have any kind of real property tax plan, son of a gun, if we just followed our own state constitution, we'd get a 35% reduction in our property tax rates. That's pretty wild if you think about it. But nobody enforces these things. Here's another perfect example. It is illegal. It's against the state code for any department or agency of the state government or subdivision thereof to promote the services of an abortion provider or encourage somebody to terminate a pregnancy and the like. This is the state code. And the Idaho Department of Health and Welfare promotes Planned Parenthood to teenage girls and other young women, right? Your public health districts actually provide counseling services where they advocate for and encourage terminating a pregnancy. Oh, and they promote the services of Planned Parenthood. Gender fluidity, this whole idea there are infinite genders, right? Infinite genders, think of this. And if you say there's just man and woman, that's hate speech. Guess you're going to catch on to me real quick. I'm going to get old here. Who do you think pays to promote that to young people? You do. Everyone in this room does. Our tax dollars are turned over to private, nonprofit groups like the Idaho Coalition Against Sexual and Domestic Violence that goes and teaches middle schoolers and high schoolers about gender fluidity. You pay. These are all absolute facts. I could prove them in a court of law. I just gave you the name, for crying out loud. I'm probably going to get sued. So be it. Let the truth have its day. Wouldn't that be great to be able to show it right in court? You can go see on some of their publications the grant number. You can go see it on their publications. Here we are. It goes on endlessly. So to touch on the election integrity piece or finish that loop, I started the Citizens Committee for Election Integrity. You're picking up on another pattern, aren't you? Citizens Committee for Election Integrity. We gathered up delegates from around the state of Idaho. We were in the Lincoln Auditorium. We took in public input. We took in professional input. We crafted a set of election standards that should attend any election conducted in a free and fair manner. And the product of our work was so compelling, it was actually entered into the congressional record in Washington, D.C., and you're not going to believe this part, on the morning of January 6th. Believe it or not, if that's not bizarre. So there's not a lot on the congressional record on the morning of January 6th, but there is Idaho's Citizens Committee for Election Integrity, and that model was later adopted by the Republican National Committee, of which they funded, I've heard to the tune of tens of millions of dollars in that effort to make sure we don't get completely outmaneuvered by Stacey Abrams and all her friends that are experts in ballot harvesting and the like. And just so you know how easy some of these solutions are, Idaho, we should do it tomorrow. Heck, they're in session. Ban ballot harvesting in the state of Idaho. Boom. How much money does that cost the state government? Nothing. I mean, beyond typical enforcement, but these unions are probably not going to be as likely to send all their employees to go harvest ballots if it's illegal and people will go to prison for it. It won't cost the state anything. We'll have more secure elections in Idaho overnight. But you'll note the politicians, you never get these kind of ideas from it. And so sometimes I get accused, and I'm sure we probably have one in the room tonight, oh, Ed, you're oversimplifying things. No, I'm not. It is that easy. Ban ballot harvesting. You don't have to continue to allow this to go on and on. But the politicians, they don't want us to believe in simple solutions. They want us to think everything is complicated, and you need them to actually figure it all out. And here's why it's so complicated, because there are special interest groups that get those people elected. And there are certain things they like and certain things they don't like. And they answer to those groups. They don't answer to you. This is why the medical treatments weren't addressed. Forced vaccine mandates and the like. It was never addressed in the legislature. Go look at their campaign finance reports. Who's funding their campaign? Oh, surprise, Moderna and Pfizer and, and St. Luke's and St. Al's. It's totally out of control. So from the Citizens Committee and my involvement in the party and having the opportunity to be a delegate for Donald Trump at the Republican National Convention, and even I've been to Mar-a-Lago to promote congressional term limits. Oh my gosh, is that so long overdue? I just had all these experiences, and I had people that said, Ed, it's worked every time. Every time we got people together and we set our eyes on a goal, we got it done. What could we do that would be game-changing for the state of Idaho? Well, folks, I'm running for governor because it's game-changing for the state of Idaho. And my candidacy represents a model for positive change that has always worked for this country from its very founding. And we've grown away from it, and I can understand why. We've really grown used to this idea that when you go to elect a governor, you need to elect a politician with a really long resume, with all these committee assignments and this long history in voting in the legislature. I hear that one all the time. Oh, I wouldn't vote for anyone without a voting record. Oh, well then you would not have voted for Ronald Reagan or Donald Trump, by the way. Oh, wow. Well, how would America be today without those two presidents? Yeah. This is outrageous. You only vote for someone who has a voting record. So what you're saying is you only support career politicians. Okay. This can work. It has worked. But our country was founded by young patriots with a bold vision. And it's one of my favorite things as I travel the state and just get to remind people of this. Because it's not that you didn't know, we just forget. Folks, the founding fathers were young. I know that they had, in the pictures, right, they had this flowing white hair and there were these learned men, but you remember they were wearing powdered wigs. Thomas Jefferson was 33 years old when he authored the Declaration of Independence. which if you've not read it in a few years, please, I encourage you, take some time tonight. Read it. It's sacred. In our home, we consider it sacred. It's profound. The whole thing, it's so profound. He was 33 years old when he authored that. 19 of the signers of that sacred document were in their 20s and 30s. They put it all on the line for something they believed in. And here, big surprise, folks, they had never started a country before. Think of that. They never did. They never had conducted a war for independence before. Please, please remember our roots again, and we will begin to return to them. Remember them. This works. It worked then, it works today. You know who the youngest governor of the United States of America is? It's Ron DeSantis. Isn't this interesting? The model worked then, it works today. So I get a shameless plug every night. I'm running for governor, right? I think that Idaho should one-up Florida. That's my own selfish feeling, my own selfish bias maybe. But it's time. People are ready for fresh blood. The Republican Party needs it desperately. This party will die out if we cannot attract the rising generation and bring them into our ranks in a meaningful way, a way that they find impactful. And my platform, I believe, does that. And so I'm going to share with you just 3 short parts. We're not going to cover everything. Statewide policy platform is very extensive, and I want to get to your questions and spend some time hearing what's important to you guys. I'll name the 3 things. School choice, a tax plan that benefits all of us and defunds the anti-American activists, and tackling corruption in government. Those 3 things would be most impactful to the state of Idaho, and I'll go a little bit more into depth. Education, folks, it does not matter if your kids are in school. It doesn't matter if you have or don't have grandkids in schools. It affects everyone in this room, and if we continue to ignore the education system, and we could make every other change that you wanted, everyone, name the whole list. We'll go to, okay, say check, 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 pretend we got it all done. It would all be undone if you don't change the education system. This education system is a perversion of what it was ever meant to be. It's completely corrupted. There is now an educational industrial complex in America today. Education is big money. Big, big money in this country. Big money in Idaho. Big money in Idaho, too. We got to disrupt it. I want to provide more educational options to families. And I believe that whatever school they enroll their kids in, the money, the tax dollars should follow their kids to the school of their choice. It would be game-changing. We would have the free exchange of ideas. We would get away from this institutionalized, one-size-fits-all model. And let me also, come on, and I'm sure we have some teachers here tonight. Look, everyone, I have teachers in my family. We all have teachers as friends and family. This has nothing to do with the teachers, so there's no reason to get offended. The system itself, the infrastructure has been perverted, been corrupted, and teachers would make immensely more money under school choice than they do this boring career ladder. And that's what's wild to me is when I run into teachers like, oh no, we need to continue to do as we have done. Well, how do you like your wage? How come that never changes? And they just give them pennies year over year. And it's like, teachers, please, I'm begging you, stop thinking this system is going to somehow be better because the government throws more money at it. Because we've done that for decades. Every year, more. And the teachers, they get a little crumbs. School choice would be better for the teachers, for the students, for the families. We have been creating generations of conformists. And every aspect of our children's thinking has been standardized. They all have to ask the same questions, have the same answers. They got to come out, the whole goal of the system is they come out the other end as a uniform and consistent product. It shouldn't surprise anyone why youth mental illness is through the roof. Nobody would do well. None of you would do well under that kind of system. It would drive any of you nuts. You're not all the same. We don't all believe the same things. We don't all learn the same ways. Empower families to get past that. And I think really COVID actually really highlighted the complete abject failure of the education system for what it is. Think of the idiocy that we regularly practice now. You've all been into a restaurant, I'm sure, and they tell you walk in, they say, okay, put your mask on. And you put your mask on and you walk 10 feet, right? and you sit down and you take your mask off, and we have all stopped the spread of a virus. When that happened, I immediately thought, oh boy, oh boy, we don't educate people anymore. No, we indoctrinate. We encourage them to conform. The whole system is just to get them to conform. And look at it now. Even you fly on an airplane, right? And you're in a pressurized tin can, people. And then, if you're drinking wine, you don't have to wear a mask. But if you fall asleep and the mask falls below your nose, they're going to come shake you and wake you up. And it's like the lady sitting 2 feet from me doesn't have a mask on. She's drinking wine. Oh, well, she's drinking. That's okay. What? You laugh, but it's also kind of scary. That's really scary, because now you're starting to see how all these nightmarish countries you've read about in history and all these insane things, see how they start to happen? We're doing insane, nonsensical things together right now. It happens, and it gets crazier the moment you don't push back. Taxes. Gosh, I could spend a ton of time on taxes. Here's how simple it is in my mind. I'm a finance guy. I've reviewed the budget. It is very possible. Nobody wants you to believe it because they want to continue to grow government. But here's two of the major platforms. Well, there's really three major parts to my tax plan. It's comprehensive. Everything's on the website. But I tell you, we should abolish the state income tax here in Idaho. Somebody likes their paycheck here. A lot of other people don't. The state could absolutely handle it. Just so you know, there's about a little bit over $2 billion come in from revenues from the state income tax. If we eliminated it, anyone here who's studied economics or knows how that works knows you're going to juice the economy. There's going to be a lot more economic activity. The government will generate sales taxes and use taxes and the like off that increased economic activity, offset the loss from the income tax. And in the meantime, we're all going to have thousands of more dollars in our pockets every year, higher paying jobs. When you pull money out of your IRA, your 401k, you're not going to have to send a significant chunk of that to the state anymore. We will all do better if you cut taxes and shrink government. And look, I wasn't the genius that even invented this idea. It just has worked every single time we've done it. I have no reason to expect it's not going to work this time. Property taxes, this is where things have gotten totally out of control. I'm going to tell you something, and when you hear it, you're going to realize, like, oh my gosh, it is really that simple, but the politicians will never let you believe it's this simple because, well, there's developers and the like that they like to get lots of money from. Growth should pay for itself, right? It's not anyone's fault when you buy a home and other people choose to move in around you. Why are we making that person who lived there previously pay for all the infrastructure to help people move in around them? That's how property taxes work in Idaho right now. It's crazy. Totally crazy. And it's unpredictable. They're skyrocketing. I'm maybe more sensitive to this than most because as a financial planner, I worked with people on a fixed income. Think of what our seniors are going through. They're on a fixed income. You have the Biden economy where their retirement accounts are tanking. You got inflation going through the roof. And then they have no clue what their next property tax bill is going to look like. They have no idea. It's just like just luck of the draw. Here's how simple it is. In Idaho, when you buy a home, you should know from the day you buy it what the property taxes on that home are going to be for your entire lifetime as long as you own it. It's that simple. We're going to cap what those increases can be. We're not going to let them increase it year over year by more than 2%. And some people will tell, oh my gosh, they won't be able to pave roads. Yes, they will. There are other funding mechanisms, impact fees and the like. Growth should pay for itself. When we could do this, it's not impossible. There are other states that actually have a common sense property tax approach, right? It's just Idaho where everything goes. When it comes to defunding anti-American activists, I think you guys get it. We could spend hours together, and I could just go on and on and on about the insanity your tax dollars funds from little stick figure cat hair ornaments. This is an exaggeration. I'm dead serious right now. I'm not kidding you right now. I've seen it. They call it's art, don't you know? And we have a whole agency dedicated to this kind of art. It's incredible. The degradation of the arts, in my opinion, is very intentional, by the way. If you've studied history, it's actually really important. We're not going to get into that tonight. But and the last thing is tackling corruption in government. Look, we never hear in Idaho about somebody going to prison for corruption in government. My favorite thing is when I'm at an event, and they'll say, well, yeah, Ed, 20 years ago, so-and-so. It's like, my point's proven, thank you. Yeah, 20 years ago. There are some of you in the room who've come from other states where when you turned on the news, you heard about somebody who was going to prison for a bribe or trading favors and the like. You'll never hear that in Idaho. We don't, go talk, I'm sure some people in the room, you got friends in law enforcement. Ask your law enforcement friends. What tools do you guys have to investigate financial crimes and, look into allegations of corruption? They'll tell you, nothing. They don't. So, law enforcement, in my opinion, they're going to be the champions to drain in the swamp. The Constitution allows for a temporary department with a 2-year maximum lifespan. I think we need a department for government accountability and transparency where we're going to actually investigate allegations of corruption and prosecute it when it's found. And we'll have some accountability again. We'll drain the swamp here. And when we drain the swamp here, then we can drain the swamp in D.C., but it doesn't work the other way. You've seen that now, right? You're not going to drain the swamp in D.C. first if you can't do it in Idaho. And before I get to your questions, I'll talk to you a little bit just about the campaign. And I've said the thing that's most important. There's 110 days left. May 17th is the election in the state of Idaho. Most people are Republican. Most people do not know what you know now. They don't. Because I'm not allowed to tell them this message. You won't read my name in the Idaho Statesman. They'll never use my name. You know what they call me? They'll call me an extremist candidate, or they'll say a first-time gubernatorial candidate, but they won't say my name. They know I come armed with the truth, and they're not used to that. And frequently you'll notice the only conservatives that get airtime are the morons, because they love them, because they make us all look stupid. And they know nothing about the cause for conservatism. They're not armed with the truth, and they're incompetent. So you'll see those conservatives quite a bit. No, I come armed with the truth, and I run circles around these people. They do not like it. I've had Betsy Russell interview me before and the like. They don't like that. They don't like that feeling. They like to be the smartest people in the room. But I've spent a long time studying this stuff out because I knew. Because, well, you're looking at it, right? I'm a young guy. I'm 31 years old, you guys. There was already plenty of reasons to not elect me. I couldn't just allow there to be any more. I had to be more prepared than anyone else. And I believe I've done that. And that's why we need some debates, for crying out loud. I'm sorry, if you support a politician who's too chicken to actually debate the most basic thing we ask of any candidate. Yeah, I don't know how you call yourself a conservative. Somehow all of a sudden we used to talk about how much we love Donald Trump and he would debate anyone, anywhere, anytime. And now suddenly, strategically, some people shouldn't debate because X, Y, and Z. And it's like, well, wait, it doesn't matter which one of the candidates thinks they should be governor. The only thing that matters is who you believe should be governor. We should see debates and see that exchange of ideas. See how candidates react under pressure. See how it is when they're called out for what they've done and what they haven't done. Right? What's their side of the story? They ought to have their side of the story. We need debates going, and I've tried about every angle I could to no avail because, again, I'm armed with the truth. They don't want you to be able to see me on stage next to them and share some of the things I shared with you tonight because they know that you're going to find out this has been a giant charade and political theater for a long time, and you're not going to be happy when you figure that out. So I'm going to continue to push hard for that. But look, we've raised over $250,000 from everyday Idahoans. My campaign is run by everyday Idahoans. I don't have lobbyists on my team. I don't even have a general political consultant. I don't have some media group that's there to, make me look like some, great conservative all of a sudden. We make all our own stuff in-house. We do that. That video, when you go see the video today, watch that. Tell me if you've ever seen a conservative in the state of Idaho put out that kind of engaging content that actually opens people's eyes to what's happening right now. Tell me if you've ever seen anything like that in Idaho. We do that in-house. That video, by the way, cost me $0.00. We made it. How do we know about it? I did my homework, right? The evidence is there for you to see. We absolutely have a path to victory, and this time there was 403,000 registered Republicans in the last Republican primary. There are now, as of this month, 530,000 registered Republicans in the state of Idaho. I anticipate you'll need, well, with 530 now, probably 125,000 or more votes to win the primary. The way the race is split up and the like, that would give you a healthy margin, at least 100,000 votes. There's 110 days left. So I hope that your takeaway tonight is, oh, yeah, we'll get back to this in a couple months. There's no time. It's got to be tomorrow. We got to start now. We have events that will continue to go on. I hope you will, and I'm recognizing some folks in the room, so I appreciate you coming back, but I hope that you'll continue to attend and bring other friends and meet people. You will join us on the journey. You will meet people you otherwise would have never been connected with. You'll learn things you otherwise wouldn't have known. And regardless of what happens to me, your community is going to be better because you were involved. It's going to be better. And the next time some crazy initiative comes up or you have some out-of-control school board and the like, you're going to say, oh, yeah, well, I already know X, Y, and Z. I'm going to call them up. We'll get the gang together again. But do it now. Jump in now with both feet. The whole purpose of a campaign is to get the message out. We do it word of mouth. I'm sure probably the vast majority of people in this room heard about this word of mouth. It works. It works. I travel across the state. We consistently get groups of people like this, and many people I never met before. So there is absolutely a path to winning this thing, but we got to quit politicking, and while we need to be informed, we also have to understand that you got to do more to get the message out than just share on social media and the like. That is a good first step. Please, everything, share it. Yep, that is a good first step. And that is it. It is a first step, right? There's so much more. Handing out literature, meeting your neighbors, hosting a meet and greet, sending out email. That's a huge one. If I just had more people that would take our newsletter and forward it to all their friends every week when they got it, that would be huge. That would reach thousands and thousands of people. So I hope you guys will choose to get more involved, but I want to hear from you. What questions do you guys have for me? Yeah.
So Idaho lands, like 61%.
You're spot on. Yeah.
How do we get our land back?
Yeah, that's going to be a process, but it's important. So what she said, she's actually spot on. So over 61% of the land in the state of Idaho is actually controlled by the federal government. And one of the things, and I'm sorry I didn't touch on the federal dollars right now in Idaho, but they're actually related, the state lands and the federal dollars. So I'm going to touch on both, how we rectify that. The first thing, and the reason why I think my tax plan is compelling, is because it's going to allow us to insulate and elevate our state. We're going to be more self-sufficient when we have better economic activity in the state. And what that will allow for is we will begin the process of being able to divorce ourselves from federal grant money that subjugates Idaho agencies to federal bureaucracies. There's one area we could do it immediately. It's education. And if you think about it, I mean, in D.C., Biden's bureaucrats, they don't know what bathroom to use. For crying out loud, we don't want them educating children in Idaho. We can stop taking the money for education now. Our budget's already in such shape that would be possible. And then they will not have control over that. However, there is money the state is owed from the federal government. That's different. But most of the money we get from the feds comes with strings attached. Now, where does some of the money that we're owed come from for the feds? Well, it's payment in lieu of taxes and the like. It's the money they send us to control our land. And they control over 61% of it. By the way, they pay us about, on average, $1.07 an acre a year. And they're in control of that land. We have to begin that process to take our state lands back. The way I imagine that looks, and first let me say that you can do it without, because we have to maintain the spirit and the character of Idaho. We are a recreational and outdoor sportsman state. That's got to be maintained, and I don't want to see us lose that character, even despite a lot of the growth. That land, if it were returned to the state, it could go into a state land trust. It's not going to be sold off and developed and all that stuff. It can be preserved for us, for everybody to enjoy. The state would be such a better steward on other lands the state owns that are public. Just to give you an idea, they still lease it out for grazing and things like that, and for to manage our forests for responsible logging and such. This is an incredible idea. I believe the federal government, they control about 35 million acres in the state of Idaho, and they pay us about a little bit over $35 million for that land. And then the state controls 2.5 million acres, so significantly smaller, but get this, the revenue to the state from the much smaller landholding, $84.5 million a year, from a fraction of it. So the feds really are getting a heck of a deal off of us and have for a long time. What we need is both, and this will be more for the congressional delegation than for a governor, but it never hurts to have a governor who's outspoken and willing to connect with other governors to address things like this, because it is Congress that's going to have to get it done. But there are a lot of states in the West that would like to see their lands returned to them, and even, believe it or not, probably some Democrat states. Nevada, over 80% of Nevada is controlled by the feds, right? There are a number of states that I think would be willing to engage in this process. So I would like to see those lands returned and controlled by, run by Idaho, right? Good question. Yeah.
There's a story about flying over Idaho managed lands and federal managed lands, and flying over them, you can see the difference.
Yeah.
And the Idaho managed forests are healthier.
Yeah.
And the other question I'd like to ask, you mentioned a video. How do we see that?
There's a lot of different ways. So he asked, how do you see the videos and the information we're putting out? So we're on every platform you can throw out there. I'll tell you, sometimes people tell me, well, no, but I checked on so-and-so, you weren't on there. Those platforms, it's impossible to find anything on there. I don't know how you find people on them, but most of everything's Ed for Idaho. If you look Ed for Idaho under each of those, you'll find me. So I encourage you to follow us on social media on whatever platform you like to use. And much of it is on the website. All my position papers are on the website. So I've articulated my position on a lot of important issues. You can read it on the website. And so I encourage you to go there. YouTube as well for videos. We're on Rumble, but nobody can find us on Rumble. It's bizarre. And I just heard they're going public. So just so you know, Rumble will be woke in probably a year. So that experiment's going to be over in no time. But it didn't work anyways. That was my experience with Rumble. But no, thank you. Good question. What other questions do you guys have? Yeah.
I don't know if you know anything about this, but how did the lieutenant governor from the state get Trump support?
Yeah.
Well, I think in a lot of ways she deserved it. She was an original delegate for the president when Ted Cruz won Idaho in 2016, right? And so she was early on the Trump train, and I'm sure she had some connections from that. And she's the sitting lieutenant governor, right? I've never held elective office, and I could see how something like that would come together. I mean, I don't understand how the host of The Apprentice sits across the table and thinks, oh yeah, this is the way to go. But hey, that's his business, so I ought to at least respect his decision.
Well, I supported Trump financially and stuff, and I've been writing and telling him he made a mistake.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I was really surprised because I was a delegate for the president. I figured there would at least be a phone call to just say, hey, we're going a different direction. We appreciate you. Get lost. Nothing. It was basically like, good luck. Yeah, there was nothing. I was really surprised how that all came out. But hey, such is politics, I guess, right? We're going to continue to work hard. But, I will say one thing. We never, and when I started this thing, we never had any reason to believe that I was going to get highfalutin endorsements, that all these, these groups that we all love were going to come in and surround me and help me. Folks, I wish it were different. There are conservative influencers that I love that are part of this, conservative corporation push now that are cashing in off of conservatism. And I've just come to see very firsthand, nobody's going to step in and help this effort. It is much too disruptive. But at the same time, I think what we need right now is whoever our next governor is going to be, we need that person to be tough as nails. We need that person to sit down across the table from some of the most high-powered, highfalutin attorneys that redefine the Constitution by the day and give them a run for their money. And this election will determine that. And I think that we've seen a lot of people start to jump ship from other campaigns and come and support our team. And I think the reason is because people have started to open their eyes a little bit and they started to realize that my team and we have had since day one every reason to fail. Every reason to fail. We never had endorsements. We never had special interest groups prop us up. I've been kicked off of conservative radio shows across this state. 3 of them, by the way. There are 3 conservative radio stations in the state. I will not allow me on them, right? I get censored from the media. I get shadow banned on social media. We've had every reason to fail, yet we continue to succeed. And when I look at some of my opponents, they have had every reason to succeed, yet they flounder. That is showing through, and we're going to continue to push hard. I would love nothing more than to have that recognition from President Trump, but it's politics, and it's kind of a nasty, ugly sport. Yeah, where all our lives hang in the balance. So, yeah.
Her ad just repeats a lot of the things that you stand for too, and has nothing substance under it.
I don't even know if she's got a platform. That's what drives me insane. She's never had a platform. Go to the website. What's Second Amendment? Yeah. Okay, great. I hand load my own ammunition. My wife can probably shoot better than a lot of people in the room here. We love firearms in our house. I love the Second. What does that mean, though? What does that really mean for you in your life? It doesn't mean anything. So I've done playing nice with this, but yeah, you got a follow up?
Well, I was just going to say that her whole platform is with Trump. That's all she's going to
Yeah. Hey, if conservatives like politicians that ride other people's coattails, and you think that's going to be the person who's going to give these federal bureaucrats a run for their money, look, that's up to you. But I'm going to continue to work very hard for something different, something new and something unique. And like I told you, I work 16, 18 hours a day, 6 days a week. And this I will say, and my opponents, nobody even argues this. Nobody. I don't care what part of the state I'm in or who I'm talking to. Nobody has or will outwork me. Bar none. Not even close. That's what it's going to take to disrupt and outmaneuver the machine. That's what it's going to take to disrupt the status quo in the Capitol building. So I'm going to continue to work like a dog because I know it works, right? It always does. And that's something that I want my children to understand. Nope, you commit and you do what it takes to win. It is working, I have to say. So she's gonna have to do a whole lot better than that. Than I got some endorsements. So, and I'm ready to be coronated. But look, I mean, a lot of you, I'm sure in this room, felt differently 6 months ago, even, or a week ago, or it changes by the day. This is politics, and it is never static. It's always fluid. So here we're going to go, and I tell you, she lost a lot of support when she put out a press release refusing to debate. She flat out said she will not do it. She doesn't have the guts. So here's the question. If somebody doesn't have the guts to face me, are you all feeling reassured that this is the person to face this onslaught right now in our country? I have no confidence in that person. I can't respect anybody that operates on a level like that. But no, thank you. What other questions do you guys have? Yeah.
I know you did Miss Education. What's your stance on homeschool?
I would love nothing more than to see more families start homeschooling their kids. now we're getting into real personal belief, but honestly, I think that many of the families that took their kids out of the public school system and went homeschool because of this pandemic and the like, and the homeschool families that were homeschooling years prior, I think it's going to be those kids that are really going to turn this country around 20 and 30 years from now. Look, I don't know, and I had some of those predispositions as well, thinking like, oh, they're awkward or something like that. I've spent a lot of time with homeschool families in the state. That's all a bunch of baloney. These homeschool kids are sharp. Watch how they conduct themselves socially with adults, too. It's totally different than you see from a lot of other kids. I've seen 15-year-olds, 14, 13-year-olds come up, shake my hand, firm handshake, look me directly in the eye, and I'm not kidding, I've had events where the homeschool kids have asked profound questions that revealed their understanding. They know most of them know the Constitution. They love this country. They know how to use their firearms properly. You go down the list. Nothing would be better for this country than more families having the opportunity to homeschool, and that's why I believe my plan is going to benefit the state so immensely, because it will be game-changing for the state for even times after some of us are gone, right? And it's because more families will be empowered to homeschool. And if we had a voucher or an education savings account, or look, we can get into this or that over the details, but at the end of the day, if more families could say, oh, I could homeschool the kids, and we would get, if I had 4 kids, we would get $10,000 or $15,000. How many families do you think would make that decision? Like, oh yeah, we're gonna homeschool the kids. We got to do whatever it takes to get more families in a place where they can make that decision. And I know a lot of the homeschoolers that are just like purists, and they're salt of the earth people. They're fiery as all get out. I love those people. The one thing that I would say that's tough though is you can't just say, oh, we're going to have the institutional education system in homeschooling and not offer anything in between for the other people who would take it if there was the opportunity. We've got to provide those opportunities for more kids to be educated at home. Yeah, thank you for asking. It's really important. Yeah.
We see in the Republican Party extremes, and we have a circular firing squad.
Yeah.
Ourselves.
Oh, yeah.
And what ideas might you have to bring us together as Republicans, as conservatives? And there are moderates, there are real left wing and the real right wing.
Yeah.
And so somehow we need to find unity, find common causes, and agree to disagree on the things that we can't get together on, and set those aside. What thoughts do you have?
Yeah, I appreciate that you asked this, because it's about the cause. It's not just about the party. It's about the cause. And I'm not sure that we'll ever achieve total unity. However, I do believe we can accomplish a greater measure of cooperation if we had a bold vision that we could all rally around. And the one thing I'll tell you, when it comes to school choice, Republicans love school choice, right? Lowering your taxes and shrinking the state government, we can agree on these things. Tackling corruption, we can agree on these things. Not all the politicians, mind you. But here's how I think it would work. And actually, this is one of the reasons and probably the most surprising reason, because I say some pretty fiery stuff, and so you might think I'm a fairly contentious person, but I'll tell you, anytime you stand up for something you believe in, you invite contention. It doesn't mean you're being contentious, but I dare you, go to any mall in America, stand up on a chair and say, I believe a marriage is between a man and a woman, and you tell me if you invite contention. Does that mean you're being contentious because you stood up for what you believe? No, that's not being contentious. People preached from tree stumps for centuries, right? That's how the church was built. So I think people see me and they think, oh gosh, right, this would bring a lot more division and a lot more problems, but it'd actually be the reverse of that. And let me tell you why. We always knew from day one This was a tall order. This was going to take a movement amongst the people to be successful. If I'm successful in this effort and I get elected, it's actually going to send an incredibly powerful message to everyone, because suddenly people are going to say, oh, that's interesting, because they had no reason to win. They never had a reason to win, but they won. Why? And it's going to be because we all said, well, we want school choice, we want to address corruption, we want to eliminate the income tax, we want to really address property taxes. And they're going to have to say, okay, the people have spoken. The only way I get elected is with a mandate. There's no other way I can win an election without a mandate. And so I guess what I'm trying to express is you all actually create that unity. You all help create that mandate by spreading the message and getting other people involved. And then when we get to that point, I think you'll see a lot of politicians who will, one, want to be reelected, but two, a lot of people say, you know what? Put all the polls aside, put all the political theater aside. At the end of the day, son of a gun, they ran hard and 100,000 people showed up and said, yep, we're going in a new direction. And that's a game changer right there. You will have more unity in the party if we accomplish this. I believe that. That's the hook? Oh my gosh.
One of the things, though, before I let him go, that I'd like you to think in your mind, and you'll notice, if you think to yourself, how did he write all of those note cards? You'll notice he used no note cards. He used no teleprompter. I challenge you, the next time you see a politician in this political election year, watch their faces and look at how much they are reading from a teleprompter that someone else wrote, and think to yourself, are these people who have committed their run for election to their heart? He has.
No,
Now
I
you- now
appreciate
you
that.
can
Thank
go.
you. All right, 60 seconds, because I didn't know I was getting the hook.
Oh,
60
okay.
seconds. I think you guys got the point of what I was trying to express and what the spirit of this campaign is. Here's the one thing that I would be remiss if I didn't share with you before I walked away, and that is you've not had a viable gubernatorial candidate that's able to express the things that this campaign believes in and actually have a path to victory, probably before in your life. You're probably not going to get it again. It's not many times you get the opportunity to be a part of something that's not about the special interest groups, that's not about all these other perverse things that are actually destroying our country. I really hope that you'll pray, that you'll dig deep and you'll think what you're going to do for this country right now, and I hope that you'll just jump in with both feet. We will figure this thing out, but we need you. This does not happen without the people in this room. And if you're thinking someone else will help and it'll be good, you will have missed an incredible opportunity. We're going to make history right now. Everyone in this room has a chance to be a part of something historic. Don't let it slip through your fingers. I promise you, this is a beautiful journey that we're on, and I thank you for sharing your evening with me, and I hope to see you guys again. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Dave. Appreciate it. Yeah.